Today, we're going to talk about the one word that, after being applied to your life, has the power to change your dog sitting business for the better and for the long term. So stay tuned. Hi, I'm April Hampton, and I designed my home-based dog sitting and daycare business so that I earn well over 6 figures in sales annually while working less than 30 hours a week, giving me the freedom I desired and fulfilling my purpose while doing what I love. And this is the first home-based dog sitting business podcast that shows you how to think, act, and be the top dog CEO from the inside out, while applying fundamental principles of the universe to proven business strategies, processes, dog management, and marketing techniques so that you actually create a business that supports your ideal lifestyle. A dog business you love because it is emotionally, physically, mentally, and financially sustainable. This is the Dog Sitter's House podcast. Hello, dog lovers, and welcome to episode number 3. I appreciate you and I thank you for listening. I really couldn't do it without you. Okay, as I said, today we're going to talk about the one word that, after being applied to your life, has the power to change your dog sitting business for the better and for the long term. Once you focus on this one word, you're going to be able to see a way to design your dream dog sitting house that supports your values and your priorities. It's going to support the vision that you have. Now, this word completely changed my life and the entire trajectory of my life along with it. This one tiny little word, so crazy because obviously I did not expect it. But because I focused on this one word, I discovered new things about myself at age 40, and I still do. And because I uncovered new things about myself, I gained newfound clarity on my purpose in life. And it goes on and on. And because I found my purpose in life, I no longer work in a corporate world where my boss says things like, oh, I don't know, I didn't hire her for her knowledge, let's just say, quote unquote. Yeah, he said that right in front of me to my customers multiple times. And it was about all I could do not to just smack him upside the head. But instead I got even and I left. But the truth is, I no longer work for anyone else. I work for myself. I work for my purpose, my goals, my inner fulfillment. And, I know it sounds like a total cliche, but honestly, nowadays, it doesn't really feel like I'm working. I just feel like I get up and have another day by design because my days are mostly by how I design them to be and around what is most important to me so that I can prioritize the things I value the most. Okay, so did I build up enough curiosity about this word? That's good. Guess what? This word today that I am speaking of is, drum roll please, curiosity. I know it sounds way too simple and silly, right? But think about it. We are raised as children to be creative and imaginative and playful and what's the word? Impulsive, or as children, we are impulsive. And as we get older, as we go through the school system and as we learn common behaviors and do's and don'ts and all of the teachings of life, we start to lose that curiosity. As we learn more things, we have less things, we think anyway, to be curious about. And so we kind of lose that childlike curiosity. So it does sound simple. I agree. It seems like an exaggeration to say that this one word, curiosity, can make such a huge difference in your life and your business. But I'm telling you the truth. It is what took me from working in a corporate job that felt as if it was basically stealing my soul every day to being able to have now a 6-figure dog sitting business. And a business that not only is successful financially, but more important, allows me to work from home so that I can serve others. It fulfills my purpose and multiple purposes. It still gives me time to take care of my dogs, myself, to travel, to spend time with loved ones. And, for me, that was my vision. And this one word, curiosity, I can literally go back, retrace my steps, and I can contribute a main cause of how I got to where I am today is because of this word curiosity. So once you finish listening to this episode, you too are going to have the opportunity to allow this one word to change your life and your business for the better. Okay, so let me explain. If you have ever experienced moments where you felt like giving up on your dreams, or you questioned if you were headed in the right direction, chances are you can relate to the day that I came across the word curiosity and pondered deeply on it, right? Because if you're in very introspective mode and kind of down and wondering if you're headed in the right direction or thinking about giving up on your dreams, then the truth is you're kind of getting curious about your future, right? You're getting curious about it. So if you ponder deeply and get curious, then you might decide to do what I decided to do one year, which was to make curiosity my word for the year. Yes, I'm a nerd, and I decide on what words I want to incorporate in my life more and make them my word for the year sometimes, or pretty much every single year. So, this is when I embarked on a year of being curious. Literally, that whole year, I stayed with curious. Most importantly, and first and foremost, I got curious about who I am. You see, I was right around 40 years old, and I was probably in the middle of a midlife crisis. And I didn't know I was in the middle of a midlife crisis at the time, but I was pretty much unhappy with everything in my life, where I was, you know, where it was headed, what my future looked like, you name it, day in, day out. I lived for weekends, even though the weekends weren't even that great anymore either. But I made a really good living. I had an amazing house and my soul dog for a lifetime. And outside of 40 hours a week, I had the time to do whatever I wanted. It just didn't feel like I was fulfilling my purpose. And it always felt like I was meant for something more. So I got curious and I started reading books that I never would have read years prior. I started exploring old interests, things like photography. Like I took a photography class in college and I loved it, but I never did anything else with it. So I thought, oh, I'll explore that. Don't know what I'm going to do with it, or if anything, maybe it'll just stay a hobby, but I'll explore it. And then I dove deep into different personality tests like Myers Briggs and astrology and numerology and human design and you know, you name it, I tried it. I was just exploring and being curious about who I really am. And, you know, it helped me, it actually helped me like myself more because before that, I always saw how my differences about me and compared to other people excluded me or, you know, made me feel lonely or whatever. But after I did a lot of exploring about who I am, I started to learn more about why I'm different and the benefits and the positives and the good that that is, and appreciating more and loving myself more. So that right there was golden. You know, if that's all you do, that right there will catapult the rest of your life, because when you love yourself, let's face it, first and foremost, self-worth is everything. All roads lead back to self-worth, or the lack thereof it, is what I like to say. Once you do that, you know, you also start to see like, oh, okay, what are my strengths? What's most important to me? What are my values? You know, get curious about it all. I tried new things just to see how they made me feel in the moment, you know? And really, the funny thing that happened from it was it helped me see what lit me up from the inside out. And it helped me see what I most enjoyed doing. And it gave me clarity on what no longer served my soul versus what did serve my soul. And that was the most important thing there. So after I kind of went through that phase in the beginning of the year and kind of midway through the year, even, I got curious about how I could take all of these strengths and these passions that I've identified about myself and how I could combine them in a way that would serve others, because I've always truly felt that we are here on this earth given our unique talents and gifts and strengths and weaknesses so that we can use them and find a way to use them to be in service to the world in one way or another. And that by doing that, God, the universe, whatever you believe in, is going to reward you for for aligning with who you are and your purpose and using it to serve other people, and it's going to reward you with the means to live, right? With not just the means to live, but with the lifestyle that you dream of, right? The desires that you have, the dreams coming true. Not that it's all going to happen overnight, and it's not easy, okay? I'm not just painting a pretty picture and making everything sunshine and rainbows here. It doesn't work like that. But if you continue on that path of following your purpose and aligning with who you are, I truly, truly believe that if you use those things to serve the world in some positive form or fashion, that you will be rewarded in it tenfold. Easy. Okay. And so that was my goal, was to see what could I do with all of my strengths and passions and all of my interests and things that lit me up from the inside, my talents and gifts. What could I do to combine all of them somehow and serve others in exchange for money or means for living, you know, in exchange for time freedom, which is what I wanted more of, you know. But I also needed to make sure it there wasn't going to cause me to work 24/7 or give up everything else that was important to me. Yeah, maybe so for the first year or two, and you know, while I get things set up, but I didn't want to set myself up for a life of imprisonment to my business and or whatever I chose to do to serve others, right? So once I gained more clarity, I wasn't sure what I was going to do, because all of a sudden I had this list in front of me, which included things like teaching. I loved to teach other people things. Caring for dogs. I'd always cared for dogs. I always volunteered at shelters and fostered and taught people about dog psychology because I love dog psychology and I always read up on it. Energy work, you know, frequency work, and fascinated about I've always been fascinated by Tesla and um, energy and Reiki and you name it. Just it's really fascinating to me as to how much our energy is received unbeknowingly to other people and vice versa, and how much that plays a role in our lives, which kind of leads and is kind of the same, but not really, into mindfulness. I figured out that I really loved mindfulness because that helped me with my health in so many ways. And so it was really important to me to keep that mindfulness moving forward in my future. And of course, photography, I got into that again, and that I really enjoyed. Neuroscience, I'd been such a nerd, and I became even more of a nerd regarding neuroscience and how our brains work and how we create new habits and how we learn new things and how we overcome bad habits and all that fun stuff. Psychology, that's kind of all wrapped up with that, and staying active. I always I remember when I was younger, um, like 30s, right? And life catches up with you and you start to put on a few pounds. And I realized like I had picked the wrong career because my career at the time required me to basically sit all day. so so I realized like yeah, maybe what I do for a living should have some sort of activity involved in it to keep me in shape and young and active as much as possible, right? And then writing, anything spirituality, all roads leading to spirituality, I was totally into, and health coaching. So take that list now, right? Teaching, caring for dogs, energy, mindfulness, photography, neuroscience, psychology, staying active, writing, spirituality, and health coaching. And look at that and go, okay, what job or business or service could I provide that combines all of these characteristics? Because at first, when I took a look at it, I honestly was at a loss. But I did make a confirmed decision prior to that, that whatever I did for the rest of my life, it was going to be what I loved. Yeah, everything we do and choose to do has things we don't love about it. But the majority of my days had to be filled with things I loved because I'd already spent the first half of my life doing it the way that everyone else thought I should, or at least how I thought they thought I should, which could be completely wrong and usually is, right? And so I stayed curious and I started taking on side jobs for some of these things. For example, I became a ghostwriter and start using my interest in writing by being a ghostwriter. I also started health coaching people on the side and like one-on-one coaching and earning a little bit extra dough that way. I started dog sitting. I signed up on Rover and was like, I can do that. That's right up my alley. And I started dog sitting. And when I did that, I also implemented the things that were really important to me when it came to dogs. My values for dogs, my values being that dogs have to get all of their needs met when they're with me because my dog needed all his needs met. Any dog that stayed with me, I believed also needed their needs met. That more on later because that actually helped tremendously grow my business and at a quick rate. But then I also took pro like pictures of the dogs that I watch just because again, I loved photography and it made me happy. And I even hosted oh my gosh, I almost forgot about this. I hosted an Airbnb experience. Okay. That is, if for those of you that don't know what an Airbnb experience is, you can get on Airbnb and you can rent a hotel, or I'm sorry, not a hotel, a house, a condo, an apartment, a room, whatever. You can rent a room on Airbnb. And you can also be someone that hosts an experience. So you know how when you rent a room or a house on Airbnb, a lot of times you'll start getting emails from Airbnb that say, "Hey, while you're in, like say you're going to Nashville, Tennessee, while you're in Nashville renting this great Airbnb of ours, look at the different activities you can do while you're here. And it'll have it so that you can sign up for different things like, I don't know, like a tour of, Music City, or, tour of Nashville, or a tour of all their murals, or um, beer hopping event, or make your own food event, or yoga in the woods event, or you name it, like whatever your heart desires, there's options. Well, I was that person that hosted an activity for people to sign up for when they came to my town. And so what I taught was how to do a whole bunch of different little mindfulness things throughout the day, and during their normal routines that help lower their anxiety, be better listeners, make better connections with people, and so on and so forth. So that fulfilled my mindfulness, right? And then, and that was amazing. It was so much fun. I got to meet so many new people. But I digress. Okay, so then I revisited my studies on dog psychology, because I was always fascinated about dog psychology, and I learned about it years prior, but I wanted to learn more because here I was dog sitting more dogs, and I felt like if I knew more about dog psychology, I could be a better dog sitter and make sure like it's not too crazy with having dogs here all the time. And that worked, it helped. And then I experimented with my energy while walking and watching dogs to see if it made a difference in the dog's behaviors as well. And woo, that's a whole nother podcast episode. So yeah, it did. So basically, the moral of the story is I experimented, I explored, and I stayed curious. And by the end of that year, I realized I'd earned $17,000 in dog sitting alone, and I loved it. And I started thinking, wow, actually, dog sitting fulfilled a lot of my list. Okay, so if I thought about it, it's working with dogs is 100% energy work. It's dog and human psychology, or more so how the two are intertwined, right? I got to take lovely, lovely photos of each dog and create custom media albums for each customer. So they get videos and pictures of each dog. And I have this gorgeous lake at the end of my street in my neighborhood where I can take the dogs to and have like this beautiful backdrop with the lake and everything. And sometimes the sun rising or the sun setting, and take some really gorgeous pictures for their dogs, or for the dogs' owners. And really, I do it for me because it lights me up from the inside out. But then it has the added benefit and bonus that it also serves my customers more. And then during meet and greets, I get the opportunity to teach people about dogs, dog psychology, and kind of neuroscience would be, slipped in there every now and then, even though they didn't know that's what I was teaching them. Mindfulness when taking care of the dogs is definitely a required skill in order to remain sane. And I was able to stay active, right, by walking and working with the dogs all day, because they are definitely like, dog sitter is the absolute worst title for this gig, because as you know, you don't sit a lot when you're watching dogs. I mean, unless you're watching a lot of elderly dogs, you're not sitting a lot. Okay. They're just not going to let you. And so what I realized is dog sitting from home nearly covered my entire list of things that I had been curious about, that I'd figured out. And during my curiosity, and had I not been curious about, I probably would have never really seen the light. I saw the light. I saw the light. The dog sitting was for me because it really fulfilled everything that was so important to me. But it didn't stop here, because once I started really growing my business and getting a lot busier, I started working 24/7. And I mean, to tell you 24/7, because there were some nights, and many nights actually, where dogs will wake you up in the middle of the night, vomiting, having to go to the restroom, just whining because they're anxious and it's their first night away from home, whatever. You know the drill. I'm sure if you're a dog sitter, You know exactly what I'm talking about, right? So I had to get very curious about how I could consciously, purposely build my dog sitting business in a way that did not drain me of all of my energy and time. All right. Because that is the biggest, if you ask me, that is the biggest challenge for dog sitters. So I did everything. I tried everything. I mean, I threw everything but the kitchen sink at my business. I implemented new processes, new systems. I tried new routines and methods with the dogs to try and calm the canine chaos all the time. I hired new people for various roles. I found ways to automate my administrative work and free up more of my time. I stayed curious about how I could design my dream dog sitting house and in a way that allowed me to do everything else I cared about, such as taking care of me and my dogs and having a social life. Like, what is that, right? Dating. Who has time for that? Serving more dogs and serving more people by serving more dogs and by serving more dog sitters eventually, like yourself, right? So, um, did I screw up? Yep, totally, completely, absolutely a ton. I screwed up a ton. I hired the wrong people out of desperation. Who's done that, right? I did this because, you're desperate sometimes. You just need a human being to help on occasion, right? And instead of taking my time and trusting that it would all work out, to wait to hire the best fitting candidate, I made lots of mistakes and kept hiring the wrong ones first. And I also struggled big time with saying no to customers. If I was fully booked or they wanted to pick up late, I would just be like, okay, I really don't want you to, but I wouldn't tell them that and I'd just let them. And I spent months on testing and setting up a software system. So that was fun. Literally every waking moment that I had available, I would work on this software system that I thought would allow my customers to book their dogs online. So therefore, I wouldn't have to do the scheduling and it would force me to stop overbooking myself. But that was a complete disaster and failure. So, you name it, I made the mistakes and I wasted, well, you could say I wasted a lot of time, but I did not waste a lot of time. Because here's the secret to what I did that most struggling dog sitters do not do. And this is why they get stuck in a business that feels more like a prison than the freedom that they envisioned when they started, right? So I chose being the word to pay attention to there. I chose to look at everything through the lens of curiosity. Okay. I remained curious as to what worked and what didn't. And I learned from each thing that didn't improve. And my next attempts, I would apply those things that I'd learned. Now, I'm not trying to be braggadocious or, oh, look at me and how amazing I am. Okay. The whole purpose for me telling you this is because making this one mistake is often the core, and I mean the core downfall of most entrepreneurs. I don't care what business or industry they're in. Okay. That mistake is looking at each failed attempt as a failure or something is wrong with you or that you're incapable or simply that just the cards are stacked against you. The universe won't let you, that keeps sticking it to the man, instead of looking at everything you do or any challenges or mistakes that you make as a game. Because if you think about it, like, for instance, if you're playing a video game, whether it's old school Pac-Man or one of these, modern games today. I don't know what they are. I don't play video games much anymore. But when you crash and die on the video game, you don't quit, right? No, you're like, oh, I gotta get it. And you restart it and you improve your strategy based off your past mistakes that got you killed. So, luckily, in entrepreneurship, your mistakes aren't going to get you actually killed. So, if you make sure that you stay curious about the game and seeing it as a game, as okay, I tried this didn't work, why didn't it work, what did work, how can I improve that and make my next attempt better. If you do that, then you're already bypassing a major core mistake that a lot of entrepreneurs make and is the cause of their downfall. Okay. So, my months of setting up a software system that failed miserably, that I mentioned earlier, that's what led me to get curious about an alternative solution. And that solution ended up being the best solution that immediately saved me 15 hours a week minimum. I kid you not, it was probably even more, but I can conservatively say 15 hours a week. It also made my customers more responsible for their appointments. Woo! How amazing is that, right? To have customers who actually take accountability for the appointments that they make with you and for their dogs, right? That's amazing because that cut out about 95% of my cancellations. What did that do? That saved me a heck of a lot more time with rescheduling, and that saved me a heck of a lot more money because at the time, I didn't even have a very good cancellation policy in place. So, this improved my ability to schedule the team better and my life better. But most of all, it actually gave me a consistent and dependable monthly income, which I probably don't need to tell you is priceless. Priceless because a dependable and consistent monthly income that you know is coming in every single month is actually peace of mind. And who doesn't need peace of mind, especially an entrepreneur who's always taking risks? So, what most people do in life is try and fail. Then they find an alternative route that is safer and easier. So, you see, they never get curious enough to fall or to fail, So, they don't want to fail again and again and again. They worry about what people are going to think about them. They start beating themselves up as being a loser. And they never grow to their final dream destiny because they choose a less grand destiny. And they tell themselves they're happy, they're okay, they're content. Not everybody's supposed to make it big, right? But true success is designing a life for yourself that isn't limited and it aligns with your true self. Okay. Success to me is not how much money you make or how pretty or skinny you are or how many kids you have or what's the best husband you have or what's the biggest house you have or the car that you drive or the clothes that you wear or the bags that you put on your shoulder. It's none of that. Okay. True success to me is when you align with your higher self and your purpose and you design a life for yourself through that alignment that serves the world. And that is a life that's not limited. You're not settling, right? So, a perfect example that I came up with, which is kind of doomy and gloomy, I apologize ahead of time, but I think a perfect example of this is Adolf Hitler. Did you know that Adolf Hitler, I was blown away when I learned this, he deeply wanted to become a painter. He wanted to be an artist. Adolf Hitler wanted to become an artist, y'all. That's crazy, ain't it? Never would have thunk that. He even applied to an art school, but he failed the entrance exam. Entrance, if I can say that word. He failed the entrance. Like, I'm failing at saying entrance. Okay. There we go. I said it. He failed the entrance exam. And so he was denied to go to the school. Now, of course, you and I both know that there were other schools he could have applied to, or he could have taken varying routes, like, I don't know, finding a mentor or working in the art field to gain access to the art world. But he didn't. Instead, he just went on to cause World War II, and simply because that route was easier than failing over and over and over again before he succeeded as an artist. And if you ask me, which you didn't, I know, but I'm going to tell you anyway, because he did not persevere with his internal calling to become an artist and artiste and serve others through his art, he brought harm to the world by choosing the easy path. And he never did succeed at life because he never became the artist he truly wanted to be. He never aligned to his true self. Now, granted, I gotcha. Most people don't end up performing genocide as their easier path. Thank God. Thank God. But as you already know, when you rob yourself of going for your true desires, you rob others of those gifts, right? So if you have these gifts and you find a way to use them as a service to others that benefits their lives, now what's going to happen to their lives? Because you weren't there fulfilling your purpose and using your gifts and aligning to your true desires and your true self, right? So if I hadn't remained curious about how I could improve with each failure, I wouldn't be in business any longer, because I almost certainly it would have completely kicked my butt and it would have been too much. And I probably would have closed up, gave up, and went and got a job. Or it would have just forced me to give up eventually, because my body would have been like, no, thank you. We're done. You're stopping. We're going to the hospital for one reason or another, right? Because as you know, as a dog sitter, especially dog sitting from your own home and having dogs in your home 24/7, it is a constant mental and physical job. And one way or the other, if you don't have that recharge time, you're going to end up either choosing to stop or your body's going to make you. And if I hadn't found a way to stay curious and how to make my business work so that it did allow me time to recharge, so that it did allow me to fulfill the rest of my priorities in life, then I wouldn't be here now. I wouldn't be able to employ multiple people. I wouldn't be able to serve hundreds of dogs and their humans, or educate their humans about dog psychology and how to improve their lives with their dogs or their connections with their dogs. And I wouldn't be here today making this podcast to help more dog sitters, help more dogs, and help more people, the owners. So it's likely that the last thing you want to do is give up or be forced to give up on your dream dog sitting business. And that's why you're here. But unless you adopt a curious mindset to understand first who you are, followed by how to align your business with who you are, and remain curious about each failed attempt and what to improve, then closing your business may be what you're forced to do. But if you're really, really serious about designing your dream dog sitting house that aligns with your true self, you have to make one of two choices right now. And that is, you can either, one, choose to stay static and continue doing things as you always have and likely get the same results, because we all know the definition of insanity, right? Is continue doing the same thing and expecting different results. Or you can, number two, choose to become curious. It's that easy. It's so simple. Okay, I take that back. It might not be easy. but it's simple. Okay. And simplicity is one of the keys to life. Keep it simple. Get curious about who you are. Get curious about what's important to you. How to design your business that aligns with who you are and what's important to you. And of course, keep listening to this podcast for more ways on how to succeed in doing this. Right? So you hear, you understand me. I hope you got it all. That is basically the gist, the message, the moral of the story that I wanted to do for or give to you today. And for all the doggies in the world and their people, I hope you choose the latter option, number 2, and you keep on growing, because your business can only grow if you grow through what you're going through. And don't forget to follow my channel for next week's episode on the hidden service you need to sell to attract and maintain more customers. Until then, thanks for listening and happy tales to you.